G'day there. I've just written a rather lengthy article about this blog post that OpenAI have put out, and I thought it'd probably be worthwhile to do a video as well and have a bit of a chat about it. So in this article that OpenAI put out on 13th of February 24, it talks about how that they're testing the ability for ChatGPT to remember things that you discuss so that in the future that ChatGPT can be more helpful. Now, the most important thing here in the heading is the fact that it says here, you are in control of ChatGPT's memory. Bear that in mind as we go through this discussion. You're in control of ChatGPT's memory. If we head down here a little bit, again, it reinforces that you're in control of ChatGPT's memory and that you can explicitly tell it to remember something, ask it what it remembers, and tell it to forget conversationally or through the settings, and you can also turn it off entirely. Again, it's all up to you. If we go down further, there's another heading there that's saying, you're in control. You're going to have to turn the memory off if you don't want it recorded in this as well. So this is the blog post that they put out. That's the end of it. And for me, while I'm usually extremely positive about AI, I think that this blog post raises a couple of things that probably do need some discussion. So let's have a look at those and see what you've got to say about it. I think we all know that AI has evolved extremely rapidly, and we're seeing continual rapid advances almost weekly in some respects. Now, ethics has always been a subject of particular interest around AI because it keeps changing. And the faster the evolution of the models, the more focus needs to be placed on the ethical considerations to make sure that they are aligned with the earlier intentions, also society's values. Now, OpenAI published this blog post, and when it talks about its intention to enhance the memory of ChatGPT, it appears that it could be building a profile of a logged-in user which is going to be developed over time and based on the chats that the user has with ChatGPT. Now, the resulting profile would then allow the agent to respond to the user based on this history of the extended conversations and multiple sessions, which could occur over 12 months or even more. OpenAI is quick to highlight the ability of the user to control ChatGPT's memory, as we've just seen when we had a look at the blog post. They also say that the user can tell it what to remember and what to forget, and also if the user wants it shut off. But the whole time it requires intervention by the user in a manner which, well, it's questionable. Is this the reverse of what might be preferred? Should users opt in or should users opt out? The way that OpenAI is talking in the blog post, you have to opt out. And if you forget, well, that conversation is being recorded into memory. Now, when it comes to the area of ethics, UNESCO stands out because the framework that they developed in 2022 has been accepted by all 193 member states. Now, that's quite significant. It's also the first global standard that has been developed on AI ethics. Now, the EU has also shown considerable initiative in the area, and they've actually stated the need to train a new generation of experts in AI ethics and making ethics a core pillar of AI development. The issue of ethics in AI is also compounded by a theory known as the agency problem, where ethical decisions can be influenced by the interests of the decision maker. You'll see a lot of this in corporate governance areas, but it also applies in terms of political decisions where there could well be implications from both an electoral and a geopolitical perspective. So any circumstances where the actors have an interest in the outcomes, the greater level of objective control that needs to be applied and the greater level of scrutiny that needs to be applied to the decisions that are made. Now, a second issue to be explored within the scope of this article is that of bias. I think we all know that bias can occur in training models anyway. So if you're training ChatGPT, then those with memory that has been developed could also engage in confirmation bias as a result of the previous prompting and conversations that they've had. Now, it's well accepted that humans will tend to accept the ideas that reinforce their existing beliefs. And if you prompt AI over time, then it could well build expectations of the user that the AI will respond in a manner which is going to confirm the bias that they seek, and they'll continue to live in the bubble that they have always lived in. Now, there's not much detailed research available on this because of the novelty of these developments in AI. However, we can refer to many papers that talk about the social engineering aspects of social media, for example. Now, Lazar in 2018 said that research also further demonstrates that people prefer information that confirms their pre-existing attitudes, selective exposure, view information consistent with their pre-existing beliefs as more persuasive than dissonant information, confirmation bias, and are inclined to accept information that pleases them, desirability bias. The question should be asked about the responsibility to ensure bias is mitigated. Traditionally, the responsibility for how a machine was built, how it performed, was the responsibility of the manufacturer and the vendor. But when it comes to the safety of AI models, there's a real issue there because they might come out and be working fine, but if they have memory and that memory's been trained by the user over a period of time, then who takes the responsibility for the outputs of the model? Now, the OpenAI post suggests that this burden will be on the user by virtue of the fact that the user has to turn the memory off. But the user also has to be aware of the implications of what it is having the model remember. Now, Matthias coined a term called the responsibility gap. And basically it refers to the concept that the longer an agent is outside the control of the original programmer, the more it can take on knowledge of its own. So you're getting a model that has evolved from when it was first used to the point where it's being looked at now. So that means that the responsibility of the original programmer is depleted over time. And it almost appears like OpenAI may well be relying on this concept and shifting the responsibility towards the user. When a user logs into a model, enhanced memory can have the ability to retain extensive information about the user and the chats that are being held. Now, this holds potential to revolutionise interactions with AI models, and it can offer a significantly heightened degree of personalisation. There's no question about that. That, in turn, can enhance user experience, for sure, particularly when you have a look at educational tools, customer service platforms, and the like. And to some extent, it's already observable in content recommendation platforms that we get with YouTube and Amazon Prime, for example. But when it comes to the issue of confirmation bias, we really have to ask the question about care and responsibility. Now, for instance, I'm going to use climate change as an example, but I am just using it as an example. For instance, consider an individual engaged in climate denial who consistently requests arguments supporting their stance, and the AI model gives those back. So the AI model recognizes over time that that individual is a climate denier. So then its responses may well incorporate that bias. So now that begs the question if such use is the intended application of AI. Now, while arguments against climate change are valid in fostering free debate in society, and I have no problems with that, should AI remain objective? It is arguable that it should encourage critical thinking by presenting alternative perspectives to users to consider and evaluate independently, irrespective of the subject. The other thing to consider is that despite the significant progress with AI models, there still are instances of hallucination that occur, and therefore it makes it the responsibility of users to always verify the responses that they get. And that needs to be done as the discussion is taking place, because then you can ask follow-up questions if need be where something isn't clear. It would appear that the best way of dealing with these issues around bias and ethics is to provide custom instructions to ChatGPT, and that could well be the solution. Now, it is important to note, however, that while custom settings and instructions are accessible in ChatGPT, I did check Gemini. At the time of writing, they weren't available there. Other models may need to be checked for this capability. So let's have a look at some recommendations about how this can be dealt with to protect you and to help you get the maximum amount of benefit from AI models. Now, one method of reducing the potential bias involves requesting the model to provide multiple viewpoints on contentious issues under examination. That approach will foster critical thinking, and it will assist users in considering diverse perspectives that they might not otherwise explore. Now, real-time fact-checking should be promoted in the utilisation of AI models, as mentioned earlier, and upon receiving a response from the model, immediate verification is advised, because discrepancies can occur or queries can be addressed through contextually relevant follow-up questions, whereas if you delay it until sometime after the event, the context can be lost. Next thing is to use custom settings in ChatGPT to mitigate bias and also to maximize the ethical performance. You will need to note that in the response area of ChatGPT, there is a limit of 1,500 characters, so therefore you need to be succinct in terms of how you word the instructions. So to build my custom instructions, what I did was have a chat with ChatGPT. Who else? And what we came up with as a result of discussions back and forth was the list that you now see on the screen. Now, there are 10 things, and the only thing that ChatGPT really missed out on in terms of its custom instructions was number 10. It didn't consider the broader impacts or externalities that may occur as a result of the information it provided in perhaps influencing a decision that I was going to make. It was important to me that I consider the externalities or other impacts that might occur as a result of decisions, and I wanted that built into the instructions. So to go through those, I'd suggest just pause the video and go and have a bit of a read of them. And then what I did was I said to ChatGPT, all right, well, that's a really good list. I'm happy with that. Now, how can we distill that further so that I can reduce the token count for the custom instructions, but in no way dilute the instructions and the meaning of those instructions in terms of ChatGPT's compliance? So let's now have a look at what it came up with. So it distilled the total number of 10 down to only 6. And it has reduced the number of characters considerably. It has retained the intent of the original 10, and it will operate on those. And I will keep an eye on it over time as well to make sure that it is following those instructions, and I'll modify them if necessary. And that's always something that you're going to be doing with prompts. You can always improve prompts, and you can always improve custom instructions. So implementing those recommendations and building custom settings in ChatGPT, that certainly should assist in maintaining an ethical approach to using AI and mitigating confirmation bias. There is no doubt that ChatGPT or AI models or chatbots or agents, whatever you wish to call them, have got enormous potential enhancing your knowledge as a human being and your ability to critically assess the ever-increasing amount of knowledge and information that you are being exposed to. So use the tool to maximize the impact and effect that you can make on the world. Well, that's pretty much it from me. I know the topic has been a little bit heavy. There's probably a lot more discussion in the article as well, if you care to read that. But I hope it has raised some interesting points for you and given you pause to have a bit of a think about how you use these models. Until next time, cheers.